Welcome to the February episode of International Voices. My name is Udo Fluck. I oversee the Office of Global and Cultural Affairs in Arts Missoula, and I am the host and moderator of this podcast series. To listen to episodes from the last 2 years, please visit artsmissoula.org. Click on Global and Cultural Affairs and visit Radio and Podcasts. International Voices is a monthly podcast brought to you through a collaboration of Global and Cultural Affairs in Arts Missoula and The Trail 1033. This is the first part of a multi-part series focusing on food as cultural diplomacy. I am talking with 4 individuals who are all passionate about international cuisine, working in the local kitchens, running restaurants and food trucks, preparing meals inspired by recipes and spices from faraway places. Their history, culture, and enthusiasm shall be our audio delight in today's podcast. Food contributes to an individual's physical and mental well-being and expresses one's cultural identity through preparation, sharing, and consumption. Food is the great unifier that connects us across cultures and generations. Culture is influenced by food through various ways, such as the physical location, the history, tradition, customs, values, and who you cook with and for. This episode is dedicated to food that is different from the food traditionally grown, harvested, prepared, and enjoyed in our region. I'm thrilled today to have 2 individuals here that are producing international food. And I'm going to hand it over. And ladies first, we'll start with you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, Silvia, and what you do.
I'm Silvia Wirick, German native, living in the U.S. approximately 30 years. I'm the owner of Alpenstüble Pretzel Factory, as well as Alpens Guten Eaten, our food truck, and we are located in Stevensville. And I'm a baker as well as a chef.
Wonderful. Thank you, Silvia. And we have here Wisam, if you could introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hi, my name is Wisam Raheem, and I'm originally from Iraq. We moved to U.S., specifically to Missoula, around 4 years back. I'm the co-owner of the Kamoon Arabian Cuisine. It was food truck, and now only like 10 days back we opened our first restaurant here in Missoula. Me and my cousin, we are doing this business, and then my wife, she joined us with this business. So it's like a family business for us.
Wonderful. Well, and congratulations on the opening of the new restaurant. That is wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
Let's get started, if we can, by you telling us a little bit about how you got interested in cooking. Who and what influenced you to become a cook?
The seed was sown in my childhood traveling to Italy with my parents and staying in a trattoria, which is a bed and breakfast called over here, where I found the love of baking and cooking. The most influential person were my mom and my grandmother and family, elderlies. In essence, to spend time with them, the place was in the kitchen, and stories as well as recipe was taught many multifaceted life skills within beyond the home. And that's how I started.
Wonderful. What a great start. So really family connected.
Correct.
And a way to spend time with family members in a kitchen.
Correct.
For me, it's I like cooking and specifically baking. It's like my hobby. I used to bake and cake decorate before I go with the food cooking. It's in our culture, like the food is very important in our culture, and I used to cook with my mom, and I'm the only boy in the family, and I have 3 sisters, so I always helping her in the kitchen, and we started from there.
Sure. What excites you both about food?
Food is like an universal language, regardless of whether you know the culture or even understand it. You can still come together and enjoy it.
I would agree.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the food is the easiest way to reach out people. If you want to make friends, you offer them food.
Right.
If you are going to work and if you take some food with you, then they will love you.
Right.
So it's in our culture as well as I think so. As Silvia said, it's the shortest way to connect with people.
And in, to some degree, to a person's heart, when I think about it, because at least when I'm invited somewhere, I feel welcomed and I feel cared for and I feel that I'm part of something else, and it just gives you a warm feeling, and it connects you to people. Absolutely. What does food preparation mean to you in the sense of how do you feel when you cook? Is it something that relaxes you and that you do when you're stressed? Is it something that puts you in a different place? Is it something that triggers something in you? How does it make you feel?
Well, I think it's true for any job you might have. For me, it's bringing my culture across, bringing home-cooked meals. It always makes me feel closer to home. And wanting to, bringing you happiness and contentment, and you can take pride in it. And probably if that doesn't do it, it's probably you chose the wrong profession. For me, it is always a joy of loving and sharing my culture through food and baking.
Okay.
Yeah, for me as well, I feel a little bit comfortable to cook, and I feel like when I'm stressed, if I do something, my stress will go away. But now it's different. When you have restaurants and you try to cook in the time and feed many people, it's become a little bit stressful for me. So it's different, like cooking in restaurants or cooking at home for guests. I think so. It's depend on to whom you are cooking.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, both of you have two different venues. Both of you have a food truck that is, in essence, bringing the cuisine to people. And then you also have, and you just told us that you just opened a restaurant in Missoula. You both have sit-down restaurants as well, where people go and get the food. So it's this unique thing of bringing food to a location for people and having people come and join you in your restaurant. Could you tell us a little bit more what got you started with your food truck and how then you added the restaurant idea to it?
Yeah, actually my cousin Ammar, he's the co-owner as well. He moved to Missoula before I moved, and we can see like Missoula. It's there is not too many options of food, like especially international foods, and we couldn't find any like Arabic cuisine. So, and since we love cooking, and Ammar, he used to have like a small restaurant as well. So we decided to go with this and introduce our cuisine to Missoula. We started with our food trucks, and people, they love what we are doing. And then from there, we decided to find a permanent location for us. And we are working on this since like 3 years, trying to find something with our budget. Then finally we found something, which is good. And I think so. This is the first maybe concept here. We have like 2 restaurants under one roof. In the morning we have, or for lunch, we have a different menu than the dinner. The lunch menu, it's run by my wife. She's doing kind of, she bakes like a flatbread with topping. with different kind interested toppings, like some flavors that Americans, they not used to it. And in the dinner, we have our like the common menu for dinner, which is shawarma, kebab, falafel, and the other stuff. That we're doing.
So that would bring me to my next question real quick. Is the menu different from the food truck to the restaurant, or is it in essence the same menu?
No, it's actually, we used to have like two food trucks, one called Raghif. Raghif means flatbread in Arabic. And that was, last year we started with this one, but Kamoon was like 3 years back. So we have almost the same menu that we have in the food truck, but because the limitation of the food truck, we couldn't like extend the menu. Now we have a little bit more space and more equipment. So we expanded our menu a little bit. And in the future, we are going to do it, expand it even more.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Now, Silvia, can you tell me about how you got started? And in your case, it's the other way around. You didn't have the food truck first and then opened the restaurant, but you had a restaurant first and then you added the food truck.
Actually, I started with the bakery.
Right.
Simply like a lot of people start out at the Saturday market. When I came in 2015, I came to this beautiful valley and just started with bringing my bread and pretzels due to the fact that I was missing that, and then brought always pretzels and breads to families and friends, and they said, gosh, you need to sell this. Maybe you have a niche there, you know. So right. I started with the market, and that really escalated rather quickly in me opening the bakery 6 months later. And
that bakery, if I may interrupt you, is in Stevensville.
It's in Stevensville, yes, that's correct. Stevensville at the Cutoff Road there, right on the corner. And so, like you said, we started with the bakery, and then we enhanced it, added dinners to it on Saturdays, which we still have in the winter months, twice a month. Comes about to twice a month. It's a 3-course meal. And then we added our food truck last year, and have similar items than what we are serving at the dinner, but it's more a 3-course meal at our dinners, consisting of soups and salads and a main dish with 2 sides and a dessert. This is what we're having, and it's authentic German. And I got asked in the bakery so many times before I made that step in the food truck and the restaurant part of the bakery. Can you make this? And can you make schnitzel? Can you cook that? And so with the requests of customers, I decided to starting the restaurant part of it twice a month, and as well as the food truck, which is mainly the food truck menu is a lot of finger foods, German finger foods. You do get the schnitzel there as well. Like I stated, the restaurant part is more extensive. It's a more sit-down environment, homey, cozy hospitality, just like you would go when you're in Germany.
Right. Now, both of you said that in the case of the Arabian cuisine and the German cuisine, that the authenticity is important. And so my question would be, what ingredients are unique to your recipes? What are some of these ingredients that we probably wouldn't find around here if we would go to a typical restaurant that has American food? What are those, and how are they different from the regular spice palette that we have? And I don't know who wants to start, but...
Okay. Actually, we were struggling with this point because we couldn't find any Arabic grocery shop here in Missoula. So the closest shop that we need to go is in Spokane. Okay. So we have to drive around 6 hours going and coming back to get our stuff from there. We use different kind of spices, Like, for example, za'atar. Za'atar is a mix of herbs. They mix it with the sesame, and they eat it with the cheese, or you can top it with the salad, or it's little bit nutty flavor.
Okay.
We have the sumag. It's herbs as well, and it gives a little bit of citrusy to the food. Again, you can put it in the salad or any other kind of dishes. We use the pomegranate molasses too much, like with the salad or with the marination. So you will have the like sweet and sour taste. We do like use cumin too much. That's why our food truck is kamoon, means it's cumin in Arabic.
Ah, okay.
So there is many other spices that we do by ourselves, like the falafel spices. It's a mix of around 12 kind of spices. The same thing with the shawarma. It's around 14 kind of spices. We mix it all together to get.
And you need to have those spices in order to make it authentic.
Exactly.
If you would leave something out, it wouldn't taste the same.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Even there is some spices we couldn't find it even in Spokane. We ask my cousins. He lives in UAE, in United Arab Emirates, to send it to us. So every year he send like 2 or 3 boxes for us full of these spices. And I need to mention that we are originally from Iraq, but me and my cousin, we used to live in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, for around 14 years. And this opportunity gave us more knowledge about the international food, because United Arab Emirates is a multicultural country. So we know about all the kind of food. Indians, Italians, Chinese, all kind of food. That make our knowledge more expanded. Yeah.
I really appreciate, as a person that loves to eat and to cook, I appreciate the dedication to the ingredients, because I think that sometimes recipes are completely changed and actually ruined by somebody saying, oh, we can just substitute this with something that sounds close enough and it'll do. And of course it never does. No. And it actually might in a weird way change the entire experience taste-wise, because cardamom or cumin was exchanged with cinnamon just because somebody thought that was the right thing to do. So I'm so happy to hear that you are dedicated to getting the spices, even if that means to driving to Spokane, which is 3 hours one way and 3 hours back, to get your ingredients so that you can make it the right way.
Yeah, that's why we had many good comments about, especially our falafel. Falafel, you can find it everywhere now, but it's never tastes like ours. Everybody said, oh, your falafel is totally different. And some people, they don't like it because they tried it somewhere else. But when tried it in our food truck or now the restaurants, they said, oh, this is totally different. I said, yeah, this is the authentic way that we are doing it.
And I see Silvia nodding and agreeing, I hope.
Yes, I can relate.
How is that with you?
I can totally relate to Hazan with the spices. I do also use various spices, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm calling my family back home, and they're sending it to me. Caraway seed is one of them. I mean, I do get it. But in my rye bread, there needs to be caraway seed in it for a true German rye bread, for the baking aspects, as well as in my sauerkraut. Same here, that Hazan, a lot of people did not like sauerkraut because they did not really know how to make it, and putting different spices in there, the spices I used to from a child, making kraut and fermenting it and going through this whole process. With that also, we have a substance that's called quark, which is a milk product, which we do not get, and I have yet not found a place to get it. There was times where I made it myself, And there I did, done through lots of trial and errors, trying to make this authentic German cheesecake, which is so different in comparisons to an American cheesecake. So much lighter in sense of digestion, and it's
because
not so...
it has quark.
It has quark. And so due to the fact that I found a substitution for it, it's a Greek yogurt, which I also have to process still before I make it
right.
into my German cheesecake. But it is the closest that it came to the taste flavor to what I'm used to, how the German cheesecake tastes like. There's also a Leberkäse. We have that on the food truck as well as on the as a dinner item when we are offering our suppers, which is 3 different types of meats we use. And I make it, and same with Hazan. You cannot get this anywhere. I have to produce it in my bakery.
And I remember the look you gave me when last year when we were talking about getting you back to German Fest.
Correct.
And I said, tell me, Silvia, what are some of the items? And among those, you said Leberkäse.
Yes.
And I said, oh, where do you get your Leberkäse from? And I remember the look you gave me. And then you said, Udo, I don't get it anywhere. I make it myself.
That's correct.
So...
yeah, so that's quite a process. Again, that's like 3 different types of meat and
right.
a certain seasoning I'm putting together in essence to get that flavor
right.
just as close to what I'm from home where I'm from.
So with both of you, the importance is really placed on the authentic ingredients, no substitutions, and whatever you can make yourself, you prefer that over a bought product or a bought ingredient if you can make it yourself.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you have traditional cultural cooking techniques that are different from, the average putting food in a metal pot on a stove and steering it? Is there something different that you do in your food preparation?
Like I said, to get the education, I got my education in Germany. I went to a culinary arts university in Römerhügel, Ludwigsburg, where I was born and raised. And most of my techniques, again, was handed down from my parents, from my grandmother, and just watching them and observing my Oma, grandmother,
right.
And my mom in the kitchen during my childhood home. And then, of course, the combination of that and what I was taught as a child and then what I was learning and then creating your own techniques. For example, I don't have a lot of machinery in my bakery. So a lot of it, all the doughs are really literally prepared like the olden days with my hands. I mean, so a lot of bakeries have machineries.
Sure.
We are like a 3-people team. It's my husband and myself and my daughter who are running the business.
Right.
And we are making our breads daily, every day, and not through a machine. It was all done that day freshly with our hands, and the croissant dough is being rolled out through a rolling pin every morning.
Wow.
So
that goes a long way as far as authenticity. That's great. How is it in Arabian cuisine? Are there certain unique cooking techniques or cooking utensils that you use that are different from what?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if I'm talking about all Arab countries, each country they have their own unique technique with the cooking.
Right.
Maybe what we are using now and what is available here, we are making the shawarma. If you heard about it, it's like slices of beef or chicken. We marinated overnight and we stuck it all together in vertical skewer, and it will we roasted vertically roasted.
So it rotates.
Rotate, yeah. This is I think so a technique. Maybe the Greek they have same thing with Euro, but we have different ingredient. We use only the pure meat. We don't mix it with the wheat or anything. It's just slices of marinated meat, and we stuck it all together. The unique technique that we have in Iraq that no one have it is how to cook the fish. We call it mesgoof, which is we have the river fish. We open the fish and we make like a fire in the ground in the middle, and we put the fish little bit far from the fire, so it will cook very slowly, and it will take like around 1.5 or 2 hours to cook the fish. And this one definitely we cannot do it here because the winter and everything.
So mesgoof is really something that is...
It's only in Iraq.
Only in Iraq.
Yeah.
If I would go to a neighboring country and would ask for that, nobody would know how to make it.
You can find it in Iraqi restaurants in UAE, for example, or in London or somewhere. But it's only in Iraq. Yeah.
Very interesting. Huh. Okay.
Just remembered something because of cooking.
Yes.
I know we do, for example, a sauerbraten, which takes quite a preparation to do it. It's being marinated. It's another thing I cannot get here in this country. I get the meat part, which I need, but then it goes laid in a brine, I believe that's what you call it,
Right.
for at least, for me, it's at least a week. I leave it in there, so every day it gets rotated, and then it gets just roasted, slow cooked on the stove or at the oven, and it takes about a week for me to prepare that. And it's became one of my customers' favorite. They're actually looking forward to it. We have a sweetheart dinner coming up, and we have an annual sweetheart dinner where this dish is prepared.
And as a fellow German, I can agree to the fact that this is a very unique taste, because the brine gives it a slightly sour touch. Not sour as in lemon sour and your face puckers, but as in sour, just a slight hint of sour because of that week-long marinating in vinegar and
Wine
white
and different
wine.
types of spices. Yeah.
And you're right, that is... even, I would argue, good sauerbraten in Germany is even tough to find, because it does take this longer process that these days everybody wants to do things quick, and so something that takes a week long is almost like it's impossible to do. But no, thank you for adding that, Silvia. Now I'd like to get a little bit from the food preparation and the idea of nourishing a body to the traditions and perhaps the history or the customs that are also almost served with the food, if that is the right way to describe it. How important is that for you, that your food has part of your culture and is perhaps teaching people something that are eating the food, beyond that they're eating it and that they're nourishing their bodies?
Okay. As I mentioned in the beginning, that the food it's very involved in our culture, like for any occasions, like if it's wedding or any happy occasion or even a sad occasion, the thing that we are think about it is the food, what we are going to serve, and there's certain dishes that we serve it in certain occasions. So the food is very important in our culture. We do like the hospitality as well. It's the big part of it is the food. For example, if you go to one of your friends or relatives, you cannot go out without have the dinner or lunch or whatever available there. And it's not like if you say no, that's mean no. No, you have to eat even you said no. It's not your option. So the hospitality is very connected to the food in our culture, and there is certain or even religion like celebrities or celebrations or like occasions that you can find the food everywhere for free.
Right.
Like in the street, like you just walk in and they will like begging you to have some food, you know. So it's all related to food, like the culture, religions, you know, hospitality, everything. It's about the food.
I love it that you don't have to ask, and that even if you're polite and you decline and you say, please, no, I'm okay, that the person will not give up. This is my dream scenario. Because I tell you, I have friends where even if I sit for an hour, I don't get anything offered. So I'm sort of wondering if there could be a cross-cultural teaching and learning thing going on where I could send some of my friends to you and you could tell them that this is no way to do it. If somebody sits in your living room for an hour, they need to be fed. And even if they say no, you still need to feed them, because that, I think, is such a wonderful way of caring.
And if you didn't eat, that means there's something wrong. Like,
so it's almost offensive. You would offend the person.
Exactly, And it's not like whatever you put in your plate. The whoever hosting you, he will put more in your plate. It's even if you said no enough, that's no. You have to eat everything, you know. So
It's just hearing that so early in the new year, and I still have some of my New Year's resolutions that I'm practicing and that I'm trying to hold on to. But just listening to you, I'm thinking, is it really worth it? Because this sounds like such a great way of connecting to people and feeling welcomed and loved through food that... it almost makes me want to forget my New Year resolutions. But, how is that in your case, Silvia?
It's very similar to Hassan's. Coming from the south part of Germany, and within the name of my business, which calls Alpenstüble, is the answer to your question in a lot of ways, because Stüble is a place in the southern German households where family and friends would gather to interact and share meals.
Right.
There are regional variations in food and cultures. Most Germans' recipes focus heavily on bread and potatoes and meat, and especially pork, and so we have lots of those almost in every meal. And just like Hassan said, if you just so happen to come by a German household and there's food on the table, there's always a plate for you, and you better eat it when you get invited, because you never go hungry out of a German house.
Right.
Especially in the time I was living in Germany, or my family in particular. You come, you get invited. Within the next 10, 15 minutes, you will have a plate in front of you. It depends on the day and the time. It's either lunchtime or it's coffee and kuchen, which we are having in the afternoon, so about between 3 and 4 o'clock, where you definitely will have a cake and a wonderful cup of coffee.
Sure.
I mean, you get fed all the time.
Right.
I mean, and like Hassan also said, the same, when you do leave something on your plate, you will get some not so nice looks from the host or from the head of the house, because like, oh, they didn't like my food, and you will hear about it. We will be very verbal about it.
Right.
So it's very similar.
Now, Wisam, the question that I have, and do I pronounce your name correctly?
It's Wisam.
Wisam.
Yeah.
Wisam.
With W,
I'm sorry.
Is it something that how do people learn this? I mean, and again, I'm seriously thinking of sending some of my friends to you so that you can teach them how to do it properly. But how do people learn? Is it something that you share with kids? When the kids grow up, do they observe this care about food and feeding, so that when they grow into teenagers and young adults, that if somebody comes over, they would also not let them sit in the living room without offering them something? Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean, back home it's much easier because you're living in the culture. But here in US, it will be like a little bit difficult for us. I mean, we're trying to transfer our culture to our kids, but they still like, going to, they have American friends, they're going to American school. Though sometimes my daughter, she's a teenager, when we told her, you shouldn't start eating before the guest, she said, why? I mean, the food is there. So we're trying to teach them slowly what's our culture and how we do that back home. So yeah, I mean, we try as much as possible, our best.
Okay. Now, to both of you, can you recall an especially memorable meal? Who made it, and what was the occasion, and what made it special?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It goes way back to my childhood. Again, I remember it's Italy. It was the starting point for me. I remember being in Italy with my father. Wanted gelato, but having to earn the money, because German parents don't just give you money, you have to earn it, no matter if you're on vacation or not.
I hope my kids are hearing this right now.
So you cannot just go to mom and dad and say, Mom, I want some 100 liras and I want to buy me some gelato back then. So at Trattoria we were staying at, is a bed and breakfast where we stayed, and my love for food there started because I had to earn my money, my lira.
Okay.
And so I helped out in this Trattoria to earn my original Italian gelato. I will never forget this moment. It stuck with me forever. And so that is how it started, this whole business, and me going into the hospitality business and the food business way back then. And that was this memorable moment to earn my own gelato with working and being a table buzzer and cleaning tables and plates. And we've been still, today, I'm still friends with the owners of that trattoria, which the third generation took over. And it's like really funny to be talking to this, like, guess what? I had you mentioned, and you are the one, your father is instilled that seed in me to get into that kind of business.
That's impressive. How about you?
Well, I cannot remember something specific because, as I said, the food, it's very like involved in our culture. So there's many like things, but honestly, I can't remember like something specific. So maybe I remember that we got invited with one of my dad's friends, and we are only 2 kids. I was like maybe 12 or 10, and my mom and my youngest sister. And they put like a huge table of food. And I started looking at my mom, and I'm not a good eater when I was small. I said, what should I do? Where should I start and how to? And as I said, it's not good not to eat, you have to eat.
Right.
So it was like too much pressure for me to do that. So yeah, and I still remember that table. It's like maybe around 30 kind of food or something.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's if they put more, that mean you are very like respected, or it's or related to that food.
Right.
Yeah.
How has your relationship to food changed over your lifetime? Is it different now than it was when you were a child, and how is it different?
Yeah, for me, I remember I was very picky in my food when I was a child. Like, I don't eat garlic, I don't eat onion, I don't eat tomato, I don't like anything red, like tomato with tomato paste. I never eat it.
Right.
I don't eat meat. I don't eat many things.
Right.
But then when I was so skinny that I ate only rice and yogurt. Maybe this is the maximum that I can eat. Then when I grow up and after I moved to UAE, as I said, it's multicultural, and I tried to love trying other foods. Now I can eat everything. Like, not everything, but I mean most of the things. That is not weird for me. Yeah.
Silvia?
My relationship to food has changed out of necessity as I have grown older, like everybody else. And for instance, I'm now lactose intolerant. But the day that I cannot have bread, like my pretzels or homemade spätzles, I had better be toothless and on a liquid diet because I just cannot live without my bread and my spätzle. Being the true German I am, I have to have my spätzles and my dumplings, and if somebody says you can't have any gluten, or I might as well just, like I said, be toothless and have a liquid diet.
Right. Well, but it's interesting that both of you say that that it changed over time.
Yes.
And when I think about my own relation to food, there were lots of things that as a kid I didn't really care for. I would probably eat them if the setting was such that it looked good and I wanted to be nice and polite. But did I really like them? Probably not. But today there are lots of things that I really like, and I specifically go and buy them. For example, mussels or oysters. As a child, and I don't know, probably that's common that children go, ugh.
Yeah.
Mussel oyster is kind of a glibbery kind of a thing that looks like slime in a shell. And so that's probably not uncommon that kids don't go for that. No matter how you dress it up and what you add to it, it's still an oyster or a mussel. But today, if somebody gets me a bag of mussels or a dozen of oysters, I could just be content in the corner and just enjoy it for the uniqueness of it, for the taste of it, and for the sensation of it that it does in your mouth and all that. So I would agree with both of you and probably our listeners are as well, that over time your taste buds change, and also perhaps your attitude towards food and what's important. And so that's interesting to hear that you're both having these recalls from when you were children and how that has changed over time. Now, is there anything else, your culinary talents or your food that we have not covered, but you think it's relevant for our listeners to know? Is there anything that you would like to add?
I guess for me personally is that we strive and provide every customer a true experience with our Southern German food and hospitality to make the time and money well spent for you. We are a very small business, like I mentioned, consisting mainly out of 3 people. But our main goal is really to bring across some true, authentic German dining experience and the hospitality. And some of our dishes in our dinner times, which is not being advertised when people have their dinners, but there are stories too. And I was mentioning earlier, my grandmother always had a story to some of the dishes she made, and they're in my memory and branded, and I share those with them. We have a dish, it's called Maultaschen, which is a meat pocket in a broth, which we normally serve inland, and there's a story to it. It's a long story I won't mention. You need to come to Alpenstüble to hear about it.
Okay.
But it is, even some of our baking, cakes and torts, there is stories attached to them, some history. So I think that's what makes us a little bit different than your average restaurant, because that's what I'm bringing, and that is what I want to bring across. That is not just a wonderful food, but it's also a little bit of history comes with that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, now when we open the restaurant, we, as Silvia said, we're trying to make our food as experience, authentic experience. So what we are doing now in our restaurants, we serve a free tea, like Iraqi style tea, which is it's black tea with cardamom, and we serve it in like very traditional pot, very traditional cups, like tea cups, and because wherever you go, even in the restaurants back home, the first thing that they will serve you is a tea or coffee for free. So we're trying to do that as well in our restaurants, and people, they like it. They said, "Are you sure it's free?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "You should sell it." I said, "No, it's free." And same thing with we're trying to do some decoration as well, like reflecting our culture. Put some like music, Arabic music. Yeah, we're trying our best to make it authentic. And many people, especially the oldest people, the first question said they are asked which dish is the most authentic one that we have to try. So I said everything is authentic. You choose whatever you like. Yeah. So we're trying to make it a nice experience as well.
So again, that brings us back to the beginning of our conversation today. There is so much more than just the food that people will get if they come to your restaurants or to your food trucks.
Yeah.
It is the flair of the country of origin. It is the music or the ambiance or whatever else is part of the eating of the food that is a side dish in a way that is served when people come to your places of eating. That's really nice to hear. Yes.
Yeah. Can I add something? We are going to sell as well some spices and some ingredient that we are using in our cuisine. So maybe next week or the week after, you can find a small corner in our restaurants. Have many of our authentic spices or different materials, grocery, that you can find it only in Spokane.
And you both have websites, I assume,
Yes.
where you have your menus. If people were intrigued by the dishes that you mentioned and the dishes that you mentioned, Silvia, if they want to find out more about it, the location of the place, and if there are any special events, like you mentioned, a sweetheart dinner, something like that would be on the website, so
Yes.
people can learn about it. And I think that's a great way to inform the community of these things, is to put it all on your website, and then everybody can go and check it out. Well, thank you so much to both of you for being my guests. I learned a lot by just listening to you both. I remembered a lot from my own childhood that I had probably not thought of for quite some time, that being 40 or 50 years. So this was enjoyable and interesting, and I hope that our listeners feel the same. And it was an inspiration to, again, have the dedication that you both put into food production and into sharing it with the community, that I think is just a wonderful example of hospitality and friendship to some degree, is to connect to people and make new friends. So thank you for doing that. And the only thing I can say is keep cooking.
Yes.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you for having us.
Many thanks to all our guests today for sharing their stories, their culture, and their passion about international cuisine. This was the first part of a multi-part series focusing on food as cultural diplomacy. Before I sign off, I would like the listeners to know that the Worldview film series is back at the Roxy this spring, and we are kicking it off on February 14th with Motorcycle Diaries from Argentina and Chile, on March 14th with An Angel at My Table from New Zealand. On April 1st, we will screen The Great Beauty from Italy, and we will finish on May 9th with Riding with Fire, a beautiful film from India. Following the films will be a facilitated community conversation and a Missoula restaurant raffle drawing. All films are free to the Missoula community. To the listeners near and far, please join me again next month for a new episode of International Voices. As always, thank you for listening. Those of you who are regularly tuning in to International Voices know, being of German descent, I usually end with a German farewell. Dankeschön fürs Zuhören. International Voices is brought to you by Global and Cultural Affairs of Arts Missoula and The Trail 1033. This and previous International Voices podcasts can be found at artsmissoula.org and thetrail1033.com.